Our name is Ghosts Want You Dead. The winding streets of memory may take us to new planes we've been tied to for all of existence, land that knows our names before we are formed, but now overrun with motel art more than ever. Which is to say, I went to a local arts festival, got a sunburn, and met a dead ringer for Sam. Hi, I'm Rebecca.
Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, Matthew. Are you not going to tell the people who you are? What if
They
it
know who I am, although
what if it's a new listener and they've never heard your beautiful voice?
at least one of them thinks that we are robots.
Oh, tell me about this. Who thinks we're a robot? And
We
I also think that's very funny. We're
we
just autistic.
well, this is not a new accusation for me, as I have worked in many a call center over the years, and because I enunciate and have a monotone voice, people often think that I am a computer on the phone. But we got a YouTube comment. We put the podcast on YouTube just without video because conventional wisdom told us to. And we got a YouTube comment asking if we were AI.
Maybe they were AI,
And my
but
answer to that was if we were AI, we would sound better.
100%, like, Matthew
There
already
would
maybe it's because you edit out all my ums and ums, but I know you don't, edit out all of them because I tried to edit an episode, but you'd already edited it, and there were still some ums, so I
well, I
don't
do
know.
leave some in to humanize us, but I do take out a good chunk of them, but no, if we were AI, you would probably hear significantly less little dogs snoring
It's
in
true.
the finished product. But,
Goodness.
no, we're not, and thanks or how dare you? I don't
Yeah, I
know.
don't really know how to feel about that, but, I mean, we're definitely not AI. Uh, potato. Potato, potato. Have you seen that one of that guy's little YouTube shorts or well, there are reels too, but like the Tic Tacs, where he is doing
I
the
have
literal dating or whatever, and he's all say potato.
no idea what you're talking
No,
about.
it's like a dating. It's like a song. He does the literal. He like songifies text messages and sings. Not songify the company. He does it himself, but he makes little songs out of bad dating app interactions. I know you've seen him,
I
but
don't
one,
think that
this
I
guy
have.
was well, the premise was just that it was a dating app conversation and the guy was clearly talking to a bot and he was like, "Say potato, Elizabeth, say potato." And she just kept saying other things and then they just screaming, "Say potato," and that's all I think of when I think of vetting whether or not something is a bot. I think it's weird because I don't think I sound AI. Now I'm gonna try to sound AI. I don't know how I would though.
That would make my editing job easier.
Speak properly, like, I'm gonna learn to speak like a person, maybe even a
No,
robot.
not a person, a
A
robot.
robot. I mentioned in the opening, I went to the arts festival today,
I
and
knew you were going to stay out in the sun too long.
I exaggerated. I am pink, but I'm always pink. I didn't stay out too terribly long. I went down and I got a funnel cake and I looked at some art. I do love funnel cake, but I didn't eat it all. Um,
I have just never seen the appeal. Everyone goes nuts for it,
I
and
like it. I feel like we're having a lot more out of state artists and stuff over the years, and I haven't
I mean
gone the
funnel
last
cake,
couple
not
years.
I mean funnel
Oh, I
cake,
thought
not
you meant
the
the arts
arts
festival.
festival. I like the arts festival fine.
Okay.
I
I thought you
just
were and I was like, "Well, I mean, it is a little oversaturated, but it was a good time. I got out, I moved my body. That was the whole point, was to exercise." What
ooh.
I was going to say is I ran into this artist. I liked his Motel Art Poppies, and I got real excited. I looked at them and I was like, "These are so pretty." And I was just looking, and he was obnoxious and old and talking at me, and he was like, "I'll sell this one to you." And I was like, "Well, do you have any prints? I like that." And he goes on to tell me all about how he's got his art in every motel and every Bucky's, and like, and it was wants me to buy the original for a price that I wasn't going to be buying original art for today, but uh it was just funny because the interaction was very coded, Sam, like he was just sort of a middle-aged, blustering commercial artist, and that just sat frustratingly with me because this particular arts festival has always been a little bit more leaning into local art, and this guy isn't local, and also, they're just everything except for, like, a couple people who I know who are local artists who had booths. Almost every black was out of state, and I was just like, "Well."
That is something I noticed the last time I went, but the last time I went was probably like 8 years ago when I
Yeah,
played music at it, and
well, and I was thinking that when I was writing my silly little opening because I think it's just nostalgia and memory of it being a good time. Well, not that it's not a good time, but being more what it used to be. I did go into some galleries and I saw some pretty art there because there are still some local artists in the galleries, but hardly anyone goes into the galleries, but they should because air conditioning. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about how Sam is real and it will haunt my nightmares.
and that's how she met your father.
No, we were talking about, ways to engage and increase listenership and let people know we're here, and it is definitely by talking about chicken.
10 minutes worth of chicken talk.
Yeah.
Oh, nobody cares. We're cutting all of this. Just 17 minutes of chicken talk. Well, like 3 minutes of arts festival and then 14 minutes of chicken talk.
I think
Y
we at least need to let them know that we talked about chicken for 14 minutes and you cut it though. Well,
yes, we are incredibly boring people, dear listeners.
we are.
Uh,
And we just spent 14 minutes talking about chicken, like just fast food chicken, but subscribe to our Patreon and you can hear it.
yeah, if you want that hot chicken gossip, then you've got to pay for it. Shall we talk about Dark Shadows since it seems we have nothing else to talk about?
I would love to.
Episode 176, Victoria Winters reminds us it is still creepy at Collinwood, but also Laura is hot and fire hexing Dr. Guthrie. We see the last scene of the previous episode where the bird lady causes Guthrie to collapse in front of the fireplace in the drawing room, but this time it's slightly different. Vicky tries to help before the opening credits, then Dr. Guthrie struggles to regain his composure as Laura continues to bird hex him. But then David interrupts her, so Guthrie is spared. I have noticed in other episodes that pick up slightly before the previous one left off. It does seem like rather than just replay the film of the scene from the previous episode, they reshoot it. And so there are slight variations when that happens, but this is the first time I noticed a big difference, and we actually went back and
Yeah.
watched the scene from the previous episode where Dr. Guthrie comes in and walks from the drawing room doors behind the sofa to the fireplace and then collapses in front of the fireplace. But on this episode, he walks in, walks behind the sofa to the fireplace, but then doesn't collapse and walks over to the sofa. So it is different.
Yes, it is.
Now we go on to see that as David rouses Laura from her fire trance, Dr. Guthrie regains control of himself. In the cottage, David is entranced by Laura's fire magic faces and he wants to learn fire magic, but she
Yes,
isn't
she's
ready to teach him. She's being sort of a bitch and is like, "What are you doing here? I'm busy. I want to be alone." And David says he was just lonely at the main house and came to visit because she said that he could.
she says she needs to get back to trying to kill Guthrie with her bird magic, but he reacts to this by saying, "Fine, I'll just go and won't bother you anymore." And she's like, "Wait, wait, wait," and gets up from her fire and ways him not to go and tells him that she loves him and that she was just dreaming with her eyes open. He is curious about her dreaming with her eyes open and all the fire magic. And she says that she will teach him someday when they are together forever. This appeases him and he leaves. And
Not
she
not
reminds
quite.
him,
That's not quite what happens. After she wants to teach him someday, he's eager to try, so they do. She tries to teach him how to spy on people in the fire, but turns out he isn't a natural at it, and they're both kind of disappointed. And
oh,
then
yeah,
she sends
I
him
guess
back
I
to
must have spaced on that part.
then she sends him back to the main house because it's getting dark and he's supposed to be home at nighttime. So that was a weird interaction all the way around. And Laura hurries back to the fire to get back to trying to kill Dr. Guthrie.
Back in the drawing room, Guthrie is recovered from the attack because of David's interruption, as we saw, and he and Vicky are talking about his episode. Vicky says it reminds her of when Liz took ill, and he's saying it's wild because it's not like he's a scaredy cat, and he's seen some things in these spooky streets, but he's never fainted before. He says he's fuzzy on why he was there at Collinwood and what he was doing, and his sense of time is all screwy. And when he came out of it, it was afternoon, but it's evening now, and he feels like it was only just minutes ago. Vicky tells him that that's what happened to Liz and that she lost a bunch of time, which I also thought was something Guthrie knew. Guthrie says that's where the similarities end because he remembered he had been visiting Laura and getting threatened. Vicky says, "Well, so did Liz." And like I said, I thought that that was an odd thing to say because Guthrie knows that uh that happened, you know? So I don't
Well,
know.
I
But
I don't think they were trying to play it that she was giving this to him as new information. I think he's just shaken up from his bird hex and she's like trying to make connections like, "Oh yeah, like what
oh yeah,
happened when."
go ahead. I was saying, "Oh
No, no,
yeah."
that was all.
I was like, "Okay, no, that makes sense," is what I'm saying. I just read it differently.
Well, David returns back to the main house from Laura's cottage, and
He's a
tells Dr. Guthrie and Vicky that that's where he's been. Guthrie asked if he noticed anything strange that his mother might have been up to, and so David launches into, "Well, funny you should say that, because she was zoned out staring into the fire making witch faces," and he goes on to explain their, failed little magic lesson, but he gets a little bit more dramatic about it and says that while she was staring into the fire, it appeared that she was a part of the fire, just like in his painting.
yes, it was a bit of a flare there.
So Guthrie is real interested in this, but then Vicky sends David off to dinner, and she and Dr. Guthrie puzzle over what sort of weird powers Laura might have. Guthrie says that whatever power Laura Collins has must be destroyed. And right then, the doors dramatically blow open to reveal Laura lurking and seething on the front porch.
Like, "Destroy this, buddy." Dun,
But
dun,
then
dun.
then she just claims, "Oh, I was just dropping by to return this scarf that David must have left at my cottage when he visited just now." But Vicky gets up in her face and is like, "Well, that isn't possible because he wasn't wearing a scarf because I picked out his clothes today." And Laura fumbles and is like, "Well, maybe he left it at our weird ghost sleepover that we had that time. Anyway, I just wanted to bring it back." And Vicky is really
Well
mean mugging Laura.
well, she digs on Vicky too and says, "Well, I brought it because I know how meticulous you are." And
Mm.
then Vicky's like, "Well, that's fine if that's the real reason you're here." And Laura says, "Well, I didn't want you to scold David." And they have a polite, bared teeth, smile, bitch fight, and it's kind of great. I liked it. Vicky goes away. I
Yeah,
forget what
she
she went
didn't
to
like it,
do.
so she
Yeah, she
says,
wasn't
"I've
into it.
gotta go help David eat his dinner or something
I
away
gotta go
from
help
you,
David eat his
bitch."
dinner. That's
Uh,
funny.
and so she leaves Laura alone with Dr. Guthrie, and Laura laments why Vicky hates her so much and says she must just be jealous about her relationship with David, and
Yeah.
she pretends to be making idle conversation and kind of resumes her playful, flirty personality a bit, while Dr. Guthrie first hints at and then directly accuses her of doing bird magic on him just now. He tells her outright that he thinks she has powers of some kind, and he accuses her of bird hexing Liz and trying to do the same to him, and he tells her that he's going to find out her whole deal and he's going to tell everybody. But instead of reacting hostily, she just laughs dismissively at him and walks out as the theremin goes bonkers before the end credits.
Episode 177. Victoria Winters tells us Laura's bird magic has gotten Liz and Guthrie both now, and Guthrie has survived.
Dr. Guthrie paces the drawing room as Carolyn descends the stairs into the foyer and then joins him. She lets Dr. Guthrie and us know that Vicky has sent her down because the good doctor wanted to talk to her. He explains about getting bird magicked himself just now and tells her all about his fainting spell and loss of time. He tells Carolyn that this is good because he knows what happened now. And he's sort of talking around it and not giving the details. And it seems as though he's trying not to accuse Laura, but then he does. So he was only
Yeah.
being dramatic and teasing Carolyn
Yeah,
before
I
the big
thought that
reveal.
too.
And after the opening credits, Carolyn is thrilled and she's all, "I told you so. I knew it was that bitch. I told you the whole time." But Dr. Guthrie says that she needs to take it easy because they don't have any proof. They go over all the details that they have on Laura, all the dead Laura Murdochs we know about, and the body in Phoenix. And Carolyn has a hard time buying that the body in Phoenix was also Laura. Dr. Guthrie finally makes the fun pun connection between the city of Phoenix, Arizona, and the Phoenix, the bird, which Bird Lady is, and
Yeah.
suggests that Bird Lady is in fact a bird lady.
Our
And
listener, Austin, will probably appreciate the extreme, uh how many episodes has it taken for them to admit that or to actually out loud draw the conclusion? But it's been
it's
a
been a
minute.
while, but such is the nature of the soap opera.
It's true, it's good times.
But Carolyn finds this hard to swallow, and Dr. Guthrie tries to liken it to reincarnation, which Carolyn also dismisses as nonsense.
Which I think that's strange that it would be likened to reincarnation. Like, I don't think it I mean, I guess it sort of is, maybe the way they're doing it. I don't know, we'll have to see.
The details are kind of hazy. There are some plot holes in the whole Laura business, which we'll get to when we wrap it up in a couple of weeks
Yeah, we
anyway.
can do that then.
But anyway, Carolyn doesn't believe in reincarnation. Dr. Guthrie has a plan, but tells Carolyn that he can't possibly pull it off without the help of a hot boy. And luckily, Carolyn knows just the one, so she suggests Joe. Dr. Guthrie confesses, like, before you ask your friend to help or whatever, you should probably know that I'm going to ask him to help me break the law. Fuck yeah.
Hot, sign me up.
Over at the restaurant in the inn, Joe and Maggie are arguing about something, and he's trying to talk her into something and tells her he loves her, and this seems to work, and they start making out. Then we sort of figure out that he was maybe trying to get her to marry him, and she's saying that she can't because she has to take care of her pathetic father.
Yeah, she's
And
hesitant to be happily ever after because of drunk daddy, and she jokes, "Well, do you wanna bring him along on our honeymoon?" And he's like, "Well, no, not particularly." And
they
sh
both have valid points here.
Sure, they
Like,
do, I agree. She goes on to say that she worries about leaving him, and he says, well, she can't let him stand in the way of their happiness, and again, it very reasonable sides to both. But Joe I also made a joke that Joe has a type, women who want to have a life with him, but won't because of their dysfunctional relationship with their primary caregiver. And Joe, girl sane. Ba-dum-bum. I thought that yeah,
that is
that
funny.
was what I took from that conversation because Joe's kind of like he's trying to be like, "Well, yeah, we can take care of your dad," but I do see a little bit of panic flash in his eyes of like, "Oh no, this is gonna be another, like, 8-year-long engagement or whatever, you know,
Yeah,
trying to
and
get her away from Sam."
during the conversation, Maggie brings up, like, what are we gonna do if, we run off to live happily ever after and then he sets himself on fire again? So Maggie clearly thinks he was just drunk and accidentally lit himself on fire. Joe chimes in that some people don't think that that was his fault. Maggie speculates that whatever shady business that Sam had with Roger back in the day was perhaps the source of Sam's alcoholism to begin with. And at this point, Carolyn enters and everybody is friendly enough.
Carolyn comes in and they all greet each other politely enough, and Carolyn comes across to me as trying to be respectful, she asks Maggie if she can talk to Joe in private for a moment. And Maggie seems a little concerned, but agrees. And Carolyn says that she won't keep him long. Maggie snarks, I don't care how long you keep him, just as long as I get him back. And it was very cunty. Her face was amazing. And I just love Maggie. I would do anything for Maggie, walk the sands of
But
the earth for Maggie.
but yet
um,
Carolyn seems to know how awkward the situation is,
sure,
and
she
she's
does.
trying to make the most out of it and, like, defer to Maggie and like, "Hey, I'm
Yeah.
not stealing your man, I just need to talk to him."
Well, at
Uh,
least to
and
Maggie directly.
that's yes, that I will get to that in a moment.
Sure.
Uh, Joe and Carolyn walk 5 feet away for their privacy where Maggie can still hear everything they're saying, and Carolyn asks for his help with whatever crime Dr. Guthrie wants to commit.
I'd commit whatever crime Guthrie wanted me to commit. I'm just
And
saying.
Joe mentions that, actually, this might help me out if you're trying to solve all the weird fire business and all the Collinwood mysteries. That could help out with Sam too, because he's really been cock blocking me lately. And so maybe if we fix all that, he'll be less of a bother. At this point, I begin to doubt the sincerity of Carolyn's exchange with Maggie because she grabs Joe by the hand and pleads for his help a little too seductively,
Yep.
as Maggie is looking on furious.
No, she's straight up. She's like, "I just need your help. I really do," and bats her eyes. Like, I mean, it
I'm
is
just
laid
a
thick.
sexy baby
I am
and
a
can't
sexy
do
babe.
nothing, and I need a big, strong man.
100%. Maggie overhears this, and her face, at least, is going to cut a bitch in the next scene. She is not pleased. Then we cut back to Carolyn and Joe, and Carolyn is apologizing for making a scene, I guess?
N I
Or
don't remember any of that. She just swears Joe to secrecy
yeah,
before
that
she'll
was
say what needs to happen. She makes him promise to keep this a secret even from Maggie, who is still definitely standing within earshot,
right.
and that is one of mine and my husband's favorite TV tropes is when people go to have a private conversation where no one else will hear. Carolyn admits to Joe that Dr. Guthrie is a psychologist, but actually he's a parapsychologist and Liz is in a psychic trance. Joe is confused and is like, "What does that mean? You think she has been hexed?" And he's skeptical, but jokes on him because she has. But Carolyn tries to sell him on all the spooky business, but isn't doing a great job and knows it, so she just wants Dr. Guthrie to explain, and she asks Joe to leave with her and come back to Collinwood right now, but he tries to be a gentleman and is like, yeah, he explains he can't just run out on Maggie right away, but that he'll come by later.
Although he's
A
fine lying or, not telling her.
yeah,
Not lying,
after
he tells her that he can't tell her at least, which yeah.
Yes, after Carolyn has gone, Joe explains to Maggie that he can't tell her what's going on because he promised, and at first she's pissed, but then lets it go pretty quick. But then when he cancels their movie date because he has to go to Collinwood right now, she is pissed again, and she says
Reasonably, I think, but
that she's not going to give him up without a fight, and then they make out a
yeah.
little. So I guess he's out of the doghouse, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't necessarily love how that played out. I'm like, "Poor Maggie." But, I mean, I don't think he has any designs for Carolyn, and I get the trusting Joe, but just the not I don't know, that would be a red flag for me. But Joe seems to be handling himself well, and I guess you do have to think he's been with their family and friends with their family and works for Liz and all of that, so
and is also the only eligible bachelor under 40 in the
Yeah, so you
town.
really gotta take what you can get. I mean, fair.
For now.
Pickings are slim for the moment.
Oh,
I've
th I cannot wait for you to see the thing that I want you to see.
okay, I'm excited.
It's very funny.
Well, we will see. Eventually. Is this, like, far future or, like, the 7 weeks future?
Not far future, it will be this summer, I'll have to look up exactly
Gotcha.
when, but it is a barrel of laughs. Elsewhere, there's a close-up on a fire to the Laura is up to something music, so we wonder, "What's she up to now?" But it was a fake out. It was Dr. Guthrie staring into the fire, waiting for Carolyn to get back, and Carolyn comes in and exposits that Vicky and Roger are elsewhere and offers Dr. Guthrie some coffee. He goes on about the nature of fire and he's being vague and withholding about what it is that he actually needs Joe's help with. Carolyn wants to know, but he's like, maybe I better just tell you both at once. Joe arrives. So Carolyn lets him in and leads him to Dr. Guthrie in the drawing room, where he's continuing to build up the mystery of it all. And he leads Joe through what are his feelings on reincarnation. And Joe
Joe.
hasn't thought about it, but also thinks it's bullshit.
Yeah.
So Guthrie dramatically reveals that he needs Joe's help opening a grave. End credits. Episode 178, Victoria Winters, lets us know that Joe and Dr. Ghostbuster are about to go grave robbing. Back in the drawing room, Joe is a little reluctant to desecrate graves with Dr. Guthrie, but the good doctor explains that he doesn't want to actually rob the grave, he just wants to see what's inside. They're not going to take anything, they're just going to look. He further explains that he wants to make sure that Laura Murdoch Stockbridge, who died in 1767, is still in her grave. Opening credits. Joe makes the obvious connection to Mother, Aunt Laura
Mhm.
Bird Lady that's down to the cottage right now. And Guthrie gets Joe up to speed on the whole flaming bird lineage. So now Joe is slightly more on board, but still reluctant to break the law. Dr. Guthrie explains that they could do it legit and Frank could get an exhumation order, but it would take a while and they're in a hurry, so they do in fact have to do coffin crime. Dr. Guthrie imparts a sense of urgency, but Joe tries to back out, so Carolyn strong arms him into it.
Yeah, she begs him with her big old eyeballs and is
Mm.
all, "Please, Joe, it's
So
my mother's only chance."
what you're saying is you want my mother to die, so you're not
Right.
going to hell. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that, and, of course, he agrees to help Guthrie even though he doesn't like it and feels a little weird about the whole, uh, you know,
Yeah, he says this is wrong
exhuming
and
the dead.
I don't want to do it, but I'll do it because I'm a pushover.
Yeah. Laura is at the cottage is doing a little bit of window gazing in honor of her soon to be ex-family by marriage, and then goes on to her fire gazing. Uh, Roger is at the door and she lets him in. They bicker as though they were once married because they are.
Yeah,
Sh
he's being pissy from the get-go, and she's antsy and says that she's nervous and that things are closing in on her and time is running out and she's almost won David over, but she has to get him completely. And Roger's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And just offers a simple solution and is like, okay, but why? Liz isn't here. You could just take him and go right now, fine by me." But now, Laura points out, when she hasn't phrased it this way before, that David must go with her of his own free will. Roger is puzzled by this, so Laura changes the subject to Dr. Guthrie. She demands to know why he's at Collinwood and reveals to Roger that Dr. Guthrie is a parapsychologist, and he seems to be shocked at this, replying, "What, you mean one of those ghost chasers? That's absurd," which he
He
did
was
just
just
participate in a seance with Dr. Guthrie a few nights ago,
yep.
and he's real mad about not knowing about this before now, which I guess I just assumed that he did, but
I don't think you like, I'm pretty sure he had to have I don't know. There's
well,
some
he
weird
could
writing choices or holes this episode.
well, he's indignant at any rate, and Laura suggests that he take it up with Carolyn since it's all her doing. Roger turns it around on Laura, though, and insists that it is only as weird as all of the other shit that's been going on since she came to town, and
Yeah.
he recounts all of her various spooky antics one by one, and she denies everything. He insists that she tell him whatever she's hiding, but she insists that there is nothing. But back to our sexy grave robbers. Guthrie and Joe are planning their little outing. Joe is still being a spoil sport about it and naysaying everything. Carolyn offers grave robbing tools in case they have to break in, but when she points out they're in a shed by Laura's place, Dr. Guthrie says, "Oh no, we don't want her to find out what we're doing." So Joe instead goes home to get his own tools and gives Dr. Guthrie his address to pick him up in a little bit for their field trip. Roger storms in, demanding to speak to Guthrie and Carolyn, and calls them both into the drawing room like they're in trouble. He pours himself a drink, and Joe leaves while Roger yells at Dr. Guthrie for being a parapsychologist like it was a secret. And Roger demands to know Guthrie's findings so far, but he won't give details beyond saying that whatever is going on seems to involve Laura.
This whole scene was just bonkers to me because he comes in and demands to know why he's doing all of this spooky business when he participated in the spooky business. And then when he tells him, he's like, just very suddenly calms and is like, well, I hate to say it, but maybe there is just something to it. It's just pointless to me. It made me crazy. I was like, what is
It
this
was
mess?
silly. Roger has a big tantrum and kicks Guthrie out and says he can never come back. But then after Roger and Carolyn yell at each other for all of 45 seconds, Roger's like, "Okay, well, I guess if he can prove it,
Yeah.
that's okay. And he can keep investigating after all, even though I threw a big fit about it 2 minutes ago."
And even, like, what he says seems to be like, well, maybe there is something to it. Like, he seems curious opposed to enraged. And the whole thing was just very weird.
Back over at the graveyard, Dr. Guthrie and Joe are approaching the crypt. Dr. Guthrie tries the door without success, and he wonders, "Oh, it's locked. Maybe somebody's in there." So he tries the knocker to see if maybe Grandpa Graveyard is at home. There's no answer, though. So Guthrie immediately goes to, "Okay, let's just break in." Joe tries
I'm
to go ahead.
I just love Guthrie. He's kind of an amazing character. I'm just very enamored is all.
Oh, well, Joe tries to chicken out, but then immediately is on board to break in. Right as they're about to bust their way into the crypt, the door handle begins to slowly turn, and the door creaks open slowly, slowly, and Joe's mouth hangs open in shock. End credits.
Episode 179, Victoria Winters, is very long winded about how Josette was telling them things through her, but now she's not, but she's leading them. It was rambly this time and went on for much longer than normal.
It was, but Vicky is basically just like, Josette was real vague at that seance, and she hasn't been a lot of help since then either. We see an abbreviated restaging of Joe and Dr. Guthrie trying to get into the crypt again, and the door seemingly opening on its own. We expect to see Grandpa Graveyard, but it appears Josette is leading the way and Joe is scared. They enter, and the door also closes itself slowly behind them before the opening credits. Dr. Guthrie gives Joe the backstory about the crypt and all the various Laura Murdochs in there. And Joe admits to being afraid, so Dr. Daddy, I mean Guthrie, comforts him.
They are looking around for the particular Laura they're looking for, the Stockbridge Laura, and, Guthrie tells Joe to bring the tools, and he stops and is concerned about respect for the dead again, and Guthrie says that he respects the dead too, but he also respects the living, and we gotta hurry if we're gonna fix things for Liz, and he's gonna do it with him or without him, and Joe says okay with him, and they go ahead and start to chisel in, trying to pry the used tire irons, it looks like, to pry the crypt open.
Somewhere during that conversation, one of them remarks about how much it stank in there, and
Oh, I missed that.
we know that's just clearly setting the stage for somebody to smell jasmine later,
Oh,
but
you know what's funny is after my shower tonight, before I sat down, I, picked some jasmine essential oil to put on my temples and my pulse points or whatever, and I was like, "I've got Josette's ghost stink," and I felt fancy for a minute, like a fancy ghost.
back at Collinwood in the drawing room, Frank is yelling at Carolyn and being a real dick, demanding that she produce Guthrie. She's reluctant to snitch since she knows they're off doing crime, but Frank is pushy about it. He tells her that he's there to talk Guthrie out of committing a crime, so she eventually caves and admits that Guthrie is in fact off desecrating graves and urges Frank to join in the fun. So he hurries out to catch them and is an asshole. Back in the crypt, my two boyfriends continue to chip away at Laura number one's headstone covering her little cubby hole, but they can't get it to budge. And Joe remarks that it feels as though something is fighting them from the inside. Eventually, they succeed, though, and they pry the headstone off and get the coffin out, which is awfully fresh looking and clearly made of plywood, which I don't think was used widely 200 years ago,
Yeah.
but
Uh,
we'll let that slide. Joe does remark on it seeming awfully intact for supposing to be 200 years old.
well, and they're working away at the bird grave during that time. They are making sexy grunting noises trying to pry it open, and it was not all unlike, the ghost orgy noises that she was making, just a different genre of film. There was a lot
Yeah,
of grunting going on.
and while we were watching this, Becca was giggling, and I thought she was giggling at the 2 actors pretending that it was a difficult effort to pry the slab of styrofoam off of this thing on the wall,
No,
but
I was giggling
she
because your 2
in
boyfriends well, Guthrie's my secret boyfriend. I'm gonna steal him away from you.
yes, in fact, her mind was in the gutter.
It usually is, pal.
At any rate, they do discover that the coffin is nailed shut, so they are preparing to remove the nails, but before they can remove nail 1, Grandpa Graveyard bellows, "No!" from the corridor,
It was
and
great.
then he appears, begging them in the name of the dead to stop. He gets up in Guthrie's face and tells him he's lucky that he's stopped him. But then Guthrie tries to be like, Vicky sent me. You like her, right? But this addle-brained old man doesn't really remember and thinks, "Oh, yeah, Vicky, she's one of these corpses, right?"
Yeah.
But if we remember when Frank and Vicky visited the first time, he wasn't real clear on whether they were ghosts or not.
Yeah, I think he thinks because Guthrie is saying, like, "Yeah, Vicky told us, she was here before, she had long dark hair," and he goes all like, "Oh, there was a young lady, but not Winters, not Winters, and so young," and he's all doddering around about it, but I think he's talking about Josette, maybe. I
Well,
don't know.
she wouldn't be in this, Stockbridge crypt.
Oh, I guess not, not of her own.
She is over at the Collins family graveyard.
Gotcha.
But Grandpa Graveyard explains that he's helping them and stopping them from opening this coffin, and he warns them about vengeful ghosts, and he starts going on again about how L. Murdoch Stockbridge died by fire. He demands that they leave dead Laura in peace, lest they get cursed or something.
Well,
But
it
Dr.
seems like
Guthrie is persistent.
he seems like he's indicating that he is guarding them. They must rest, they must stay resting, and he's talking about how they, mustn't be disturbed because it will unleash terrible horrors. And this was the first time that it occurred to me that Grandpa Graveyard was just snoozing on the job, that he's there to be, taking care of the bird family and let them not be unleashed, but this bitch has been out here for a couple 100 years terrorizing people, so I don't know. Just thought that was interesting.
Well, again, I'm not sure about the mechanics of all the bird magic, and I don't know that we ever will be.
Well, we can speculate. But yeah, Gramps says some mysterious stuff about the fire and taking the smoke and the fire to the grave, and he wants them to leave her in peace. And Guthrie asks if there's anything they can do to convince him, but there isn't, supposedly. And Joe and Guthrie talk about leaving, but Guthrie won't. And Frank runs in and is like, "I knew I'd find you here." Grandpa Graveyard recognizes Frank and mutters more about the long dark haired, young, so young. Or, well, where were we? Frank and,
Grandpa Graveyard says that they'll open this coffin over his dead body,
yeah.
and Joe is ready to admit defeat and leave, but that's when Frank bounds in and appeases Grandpa Graveyard, and he's apologetic and fusses at Dr. Guthrie about the consequences of grave desecration. They're arguing back and forth about it. Dr. Guthrie eventually apologizes to Grandpa Graveyard and offers to put the coffin back where he found it, but he says, "Don't worry about it, like, it'll be fine overnight." But then the Josette music starts up, and Joe smells flowers. He doesn't know what sort of flowers because he's a manly man,
Yeah.
but Frank remarks, "Jasmine, maybe?" And Joe says, "I don't know about jasmine, it just smells like a lot of flowers." I thought that was cute.
Yeah, it was.
Guthrie calls out to Josette, and just then L. Murdoch Stockbridge's coffin opens as if by unseen jasmine-scented hands. Guthrie and the others peer into the coffin, and wouldn't you know it, it's empty. They look puzzled to a suspenseful music sting. End credits.
Episode 180. Victoria Winters says it's weird to dig folks up, but it's just got to be done. They replay the scene from the end of the last episode. Was all
Opening
we got.
credits. Yeah.
Yeah.
This time, though, Grandpa Graveyard is upset about the missing body, and he worries that this means that L. Murdoch Stockbridge isn't at peace and she's out wandering alone in the night.
Yeah. Gramps has realized he's misplaced his bird lady and he's panicked.
Guthrie insists that Josette must have wanted them to see the empty coffin, but he still needs more proof before getting all this out in the open. So he asks Grandpa Graveyard for directions to the final resting place of L. Murdoch Radcliffe. Frank is on board now, so they head out to dig her up because she's out in the outside graveyard since she's not a Stockbridge. So they're on their way to her grave and leave Grandpa Graveyard alone to his ghostly monologuing. Out in the graveyard proper, the fellas search for L. Murdoch Radcliffe's headstone, and they do eventually find it. Poor silly Joe seems surprised that Dr. Guthrie wants to dig her up, so maybe he's a moron, but he's hot, so I'll let it slide.
He's a cutie.
Frank is still on board, though, so Joe heads off to a tool shed to grab some shovels. Back in the crypt, Grandpa Graveyard is frightened and still rambling on to himself. He eventually gets around to saying that there was something odd that he can't remember about Laura Murdoch Radcliffe's death by fire. And so he hits his ghost books to refresh his addled memory. Back outside, the fellas set to digging, and we cut back into the crypt where Grandpa Graveyard finds what he was looking for, and he intones that Laura Murdoch Radcliffe had a boy child. Before he can reveal more, he senses that he's not alone. Right on cue, Laura, in her best astral projection cloak, materializes in the crypt and says, "Oh, I'm with those guys that were just here. I'm just looking for Dr. Guthrie. Which way did they go?" She happens upon the open casket, though, and is interested, and so Grandpa Graveyard explains what's going on, and she is alarmed, which seems strange.
Yeah.
She asks where the boys are. He explains they went to dig up Laura Murdoch Radcliffe, and she says that she'll wait for them. She asks him what was it he was rambling on about when she materialized, and so he shows her the book that he was looking at. Outside, the fellows have done some fast digging because in those 2 minutes, this coffin is already out of the ground and
Yeah.
ready to be opened. Back in the crypt, Grandpa has the heaves about all these deaths by fire, and Laura gets horny for fire and gives a creepy speech. We head back outside where the fellas get the coffin open, and it is empty as expected. Back in the crypt, Laura goes on hypnotizing Grandpa Graveyard with her fire erotica before vanishing to a theremin sting.
That's
Outside,
pretty
the
good.
fellows are still working fast. They've already put the coffin back and filled in the grave in like 2 minutes. They head back to the crypt to put the Stockbridge coffin back, and they find Grandpa Graveyard has been hit with a bird whammy. He's got lost time and is confused, and the records that he showed to Laura about the previous Laura and her boy child have been damaged beyond reading. Guthrie points out it seems as though they had been exposed to fire. End
Dun,
credits.
dun.
This went pretty quick this week. This was fun. This arc is sort of wrapping up and coming to a close.
I'm enjoying it. I've found this to be one of the more fun arcs so far. I really do like Guthrie. I think he's a fun action hero that you wouldn't think. Like I enjoy his running around the countryside, defiling graves and doing seances all under the flag of science. I'm into it. I love him.
It is fun. We are almost done with this, though. I'm not
I
going to
know.
give any detailed spoilers, but I will say that we've only got 2.1 weeks of this left. So I won't say how, but this story is going to be wrapped up by episode 191. But I do think it's very fun.
It's a good
And
one.
follow us on Instagram at Ghosts Want You Dead. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/Ghosts Want You Dead.
This program is brought to you by Amy and Austin and Jacob. Thank you, Amy and
Thanks.
Austin and Jacob. I
Yeah,
said
thanks.
Austin. Austin. I got it right the first time. Anyway, yes, thank you. And if you want to join their ranks, you can join our Patreon and you too will be a member of our Patreon.
We have plans to make a fun Patreon pitch video, and we look forward to that. However, right now, we have turned off our air conditioners so they wouldn't be loud so we could record, and it's very hot in my house, so I have to go so I can turn the air conditioner back on.
I'm hanging up now.
Okay,
I love you.
you too,
No,
bye.
that's what we say. We one of us said, yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
I
bye.
know.
Okay.